What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the third part of a story where Issei was betrayed and became the Crimson Angel god of domination. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Now, let's start to part 3. The week so far had turned out to be quite lively for Issei's class. First, there was the madness of Monday, then the twisted events of Tuesday. Now, however, everyone looked forward to what Wednesday might bring. Well, any ideas? Rainer asked, from her usual position on Issei's desk, with her legs hanging over her back, but this time, she was propping her head with her right hand and looking at Issei. Issei thought back in his head for a minute, staring at the ceiling, before hearing someone clear their throat near him. Issei looked to his left and saw Kiryu and Kata staring at him. Anything you two need? Issei asked confused. Currently, yes. Kata said firmly, causing Issei to raise an eyebrow in confusion. If you guys want protection for your dates, you'd better ask Zenovia. I still have no idea where she gets them from. Issei said calmly, before muttering the last part to himself. That's not why we came here. Kata shouted in annoyance. But thanks for the advice. Added Kiryu, making Kata look at her, with an embarrassed look. Listen, Murayama hasn't been very happy with her week lately, and we also promised we'd go on our first date together, like best friends should. Kata began. I see, that must hurt your feelings and make you feel bad, right? Issei asked, with Kata nodding her head. Yes, well, in any case, Kiryu had an idea on how to help her. Kata said, before turning to Kiryu. Really? What did you think about a makeover? Issei asked surprised. Before you answer that, do you really think Murayama needs a makeover? Kiryu asked slyly. I don't believe it. She'd probably be one of the top 10 girls in school, for attractiveness, by my count anyway. Issei said thoughtfully, rubbing his chin and thinking a little. In that case, what would you say if you joined all of us for a triple date? Kiryu proposed, surprising Issei. What? Issei said in shock. Well, let's just say Murayama hasn't had the best luck with boys as of late. Outside of the three of you, she has had very little interaction with them, and, for that reason, she tends to come across as overly aggressive to most. Kata explained. Sorry then. Issei apologized sheepishly. Well, in that case, would you mind being Murayama's date this Saturday? Kata asked. Well, before I answer that, let me make sure everyone is clear on a few things. Issei said, receiving a nod from the duo. You realize I'm not exactly single. In fact, I have about half a dozen girls who like me and I like them too. Not to mention I've been doing it quite frequently with one of them. Issei said, earning 2 nods from the couple, though Kata was accompanied by a blush. Alright. It's just for the day and I don't think Murayama cares too much either. Just don't expect anything physical from her. Kata said sternly. Of course not, I would never expect something like that, but are you sure she would agree? Issei asked curiously. I'm sure. Kata said. Okay then, I wasn't planning on doing anything this weekend anyway, plus, it'd probably be fun to see how badly Motohama and Mitsuda screw things up. Issei said, laughing darkly towards the end. So, on Saturday at noon, don't be late. Kata said, before she and Kiryu left. This is very funny. You've gone from a hated pervert to a non-sexual pimp. Oh, I wish I were alive, so I could laugh at this for real. Besides, you didn't really need to mention your harem or your room's activities, you just felt like showing off, right? Rainer laughed. Line break. Once again, at lunchtime, there was a lot of conversation. Issei, what is this about you going on a date with another girl in our class? Irina asked, a pout on her face. I would like to know as well. Added Zenovia. Well, there's not much to explain really, I'm going on a triple date with these 2 perverts, so the 3 girls we're going with can be happy. Issei said. Moo, but what about us? Irina asked sadly, frowning. That's a fair point, I guess. How about you two move in with me in my apartment complex? I still have a few free rooms and this way we can spend more time together. Issei proposed. Irina and Zenovia looked at each other quickly, before smiling. Irina is significantly bigger than Zenovia's. Okay, we'll go tonight then. Irina applauded. Yes, I will come prepared too. Zenovia said, taking out a bunch of condoms. Jesus fucking Christ, for God's sake, where do you get this stuff? Issei asked, snatching one from Zenovia's hands. I have secrets too, Isay. Zenovia said proudly, confusing Issei. I didn't mean exactly where you got them from, I meant where you constantly got them from. Issei clarified. My bra, of course. Zenovia said, pointing to her shirt. All women I understand. Issei said, putting away the condom, seeing dangerous looks being sent to him where they came from Mitsuda and Motohama. Anyway, we'll see you later tonight. Zenovia said, before she and Irina left. Issei turned to look at his two friends, who were looking at him jealously. Hey, don't look at me like that, you guys have girls now too. Issei said defensively. Too many, you have too many and it's not fair. Mitsuda commented. Too bad, I've beaten more than you two combined in the past, so it's only fair that I get more in the end, simply because of the effort I put into this harem thing. You guys just watched porn for a year before you did anything. Twisted Issei. I guess that's a fair point. Motohama said unhappily, with Mitsuda reluctantly nodding. Besides, this just means that you both can benefit from my experience. Issei said proudly. Oh yeah, the experience about getting hit by your love interests, I'm sure they'd love to know about that. Rainer said sarcastically. Line break. The day quickly concluded as normal, but the rumors of Irina and Zenovia moving in with Issei were starting and would no doubt explode tomorrow. Alright, I'll wait here for you both, so after you grab your things, we can all go home together. Issei said, receiving an excited nod from Irina and a cool one from Zenovia. Issei was standing by the doors, watching everyone leave, engrossed in conversation with Drake. So Drake, if Grendel returned, do you think other dragons will too? Issei asked worried. A great possibility. Dragons were always feared for their power, after all, the threat of Albion and I simply fighting united the three factions. However, it is worrying, because evil dragons, like Grendel, are in fact stronger than the current 5 great dragon kings, 6 before, when Tannen was part of the group. Drake said gravely. So these dragons are even stronger than Tannen, man, that's not good. Issei thought. It gets worse, considering that one of them, Crom Cruich, had a power very close to Albion and me, at least last I heard. Added Drake. That is bad, then really bad. Issei thought worried. Drake didn't respond to this, but Issei could sense his silent agreement. Issei closed his eyes in thought, before a voice snapped him out of them. What? Issei asked confused, as he looked up quickly, only to see Murayama in front of him. I said, can we talk for a minute, Issei? Murayama repeated patiently. Sure, what's up? Issei replied. Well, Cadis and Kiryu told me about this weekend, so I wanted to talk to you. Murayama explained. That's fair, I guess, what do you have in mind? Issei asked calmly. First of all, you know you don't actually have to do this, right? Murayama asked, with a slightly narrowed gaze. Of course, I imagined it. Issei replied coldly. Second, you better not expect anything physical to happen. Murayama said, with a hint of warning in her tone. Like I told Cadis and Kiryu, I know. I wouldn't expect you to do it anyway, you're better than that, otherwise you wouldn't have beaten the three of us so much in the past. Issei said, laughing towards the end. Murayama smiled briefly at this, before flashing his features again. In that case, I just want to ask you one last thing. Because? Murayama asked. Why, what? Issei asked confused. Why do you agree to do this? If it was before your self-discovery thingy, I would have said it was because you were a horny beast, but if you already have a girlfriend or several girlfriends, one of whom you do certain things, why would you want to date me, knowing that nothing will happen? Murayama asked carefully. A few reasons, I guess. 1. It will be fun to see how badly Motohama and Mitsuda fight on their dates, which I can't miss. 2. I meant it when I told Kiryu and Cadis that I have no plans this weekend, and that being bored is not a good thing. I get quite bored, if I get bored I overtrain, which is not fun, despite what it may seem. Issei said thoughtfully. Murayama gave a soft sigh at this, lowering her head slightly. Lastly, who wouldn't like to date a beautiful girl like you? Even if it's just for a couple of hours, anyone would be lucky to take you on a date. Issei finished, making Murayama look at him questioningly. Really? Do you really mean that? Kiryu told me what you said about me being one of the top 10 girls in our school, in her opinion. Do you really mean that? I mean, compared to most, I'm pretty plain and boring and I guess a little violent too. Murayama asked cynically. Of course I mean it. Even before I had a single girlfriend, you were always in my top 10 list, it's also why I never bothered to look, on the rare occasions you didn't show up at school. Issei said, moving closer and whispering conspiratorially towards the end, with a wink, to which Murayama laughed. I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or an insult. Murayama said dryly. Take it however you want, it's the truth. Issei said, with a smile. Murayama couldn't help but smile a little, as she examined Issei's relaxed face. You know something, Issei, for what it's worth, I'm glad you went on your little journey of self-discovery, because now you're a lot nicer and a lot less perverted. Murayama said honestly, but Issei couldn't help but grimace a little. Yeah, I guess I wasn't the best kind of person, personality-wise, before that, but people change, I guess. Issei said. Well, some people do, others just fool you for so long, you never expect anything from them. Rainer added mockingly, making Issei frown. Well, for what it's worth, it's a lot more fun to talk now, at least it also helps that you don't look anymore. Murayama said calmly. Thank you. Issei said happily. I'll see you on Saturday then. Murayama said before walking away. Just a few minutes later Irina and Zenovia appeared with a small amount of luggage. Ready to go? Issei asked. Yeah. Irina said darkly. Something wrong? Isay asked worried. It's no big deal. Irina said before remembering what had just happened just a few minutes ago. Line break. Flashback. Line. Irina had just finished packing her things before going down to Zenovia's room. When Irina headed to Zenovia's room, she noticed that the door was open and she heard voices talking. Irina couldn't understand what was being said, but she could hear that one of the voices sounded quite bitter. Suddenly, the door opened and a Kendo stormed out. The hybrid paused for a moment, looking at the angel and also seeing his luggage, before quickly heading to her room and slamming the door shut. After a moment, Zenovia came out, carrying her luggage as well, in a blue carry-on bag, in contrast to Irina's brown one. Problems? Irina asked apprehensively. No problem. Zenovia replied calmly, before the two left and went down the elevator. Luckily, they didn't run into any of the other girls on their way, which made leaving the house easier than it could have been. As the two headed towards the door, they saw Issei's father sitting in the living room, reading a newspaper. Where would you two go? Issei's father asked interestedly, momentarily lowering the newspaper from him. Thank you for your hospitality, Mr. Haidu, but Zenovia and I have made other living arrangements. Sorry for being a burden to you for so long and thank you for inviting us. Irina said, with her and Zenovia bowing. Ah, it wasn't a bother at all, Irina, after all you're practically family. However, give my regards to Issei. Mr. Haidu said, before reopening his newspaper. What do you mean? Irina sputtered. I may not be the smartest man, but I know enough about you and Issei to figure things out for myself. As long as Issei is okay with it, you both have my blessings, now you should go before anyone else comes here. This house is not as quiet as it seems, and I can tell that you two don't want any more fights to break out between you two and the others. Issei's father said, without looking up from his newspaper. The two heard the wise words and left immediately. As the two walked down the street, Irina noticed that Zenovia seemed quite calm, especially considering what may have happened between her and Kendo. Zenovia, what happened up there? Irina asked kindly but firmly. As expected, someone was clearly unhappy because they had forgiven us and not done it with him, that's all. Nothing too innovative. Zenovia replied calmly. Did you tell her where we're going? Irina asked nervously. No, but I'm sure she figured it out, more or less. However, not the location. Zenovia said. Irina sighed, but glanced at the slowly shrinking building as they walked away from it. End of flashback. Very well, if you're sure. Issei said, breaking Irina out of her thoughts. The trio made their way to Issei's apartment in silence, before finally arriving just as the sun had begun to set. So what rooms do you girls want? All rooms are free, well apart from mine obviously, but feel free to stop by any time. Issei asked. The duo looked at each other before coming to a silent agreement. Could we have rooms facing each other? Irina asked. Sure, ground floor or the floor above that. Issei asked. Latest. It would be best if we are as close to you as possible, especially if we need to have a baby in the future. Zenovia said, making Irina look at her, blushing. I think if we're going to have a baby, we'd probably have to be in the same room. Issei laughed. Good point. Zenovia responded, nodding. Don't worry, let me go grab the two keys for a second. Issei said, before launching into the complex. Zenovia. You are still too far ahead. Irina scolded. On the contrary, Irina, it seems like I'm starting to see some success. Not only did Issei take away a tool for me to practice today, but he didn't say that it was still too early to talk about making a baby. Zenovia said calmly, making Irina stop and think about it. Ah, here they are. Your room is on the left, Zenovia, and yours is on the right, Irina. Well, both are identical, so feel free to change if you want. Issei said, as he handed the girls a key each. How about a key for your room? Zenovia asked. Oh well, I have a key, but I never actually lock my door, which means people tend to get in on their own. Isay said, turning to Irina at the end, who smiled tenderly and stuck her tongue out at her. So don't worry about it. The keys are mainly so that the girls can have privacy if they wish. Isay explained, before yawning. Well, I know it's only around 7, but I feel tired. Do you two need help unpacking? Isay asked. No thanks, Isay, we should be fine. Irina said happily, with Zenovia nodding her head. Great, in that case, I'm going to bed. I usually leave for school at 8, so I'll go and knock on your doors at 5 in case you'd like us to go together. If you need more time to prepare, that's fine, but the offer is there. Issei said, before walking up the stairs. Issei headed to his room, opening the door and heading to his bed, before laying down and quickly falling asleep, ignoring the fallen angel, who had been trying to draw his attention to the bed entirely. She disgusted. Line break. As Issei had said, he woke up, got dressed and headed towards Zenovia and Irina's room at 5, and knocked on their doors. Both girls were ready to leave, and the trio headed towards the school, which began to spark whispers. High school, always gossiping. Issei thought, amused. As the three made their way to their classroom and sat down, Rainer made her presence known, standing on Issei's desk, instead of resting on the desk, as she normally does. Finally. I've been trying to talk to you for hours. Don't you know it's rude to ignore a girl? Rainer screamed. It's also rude to kill someone. Issei thought dryly, making Rainer laugh and resume her usual position on Issei's desk. I guess that's just look who just arrived. A standard-looking student with larger than average breasts. Rainer commented. Issei turned and noticed that Murayama had entered the classroom and, in a move that surprised Issei, he gave him a small smile and a wave, which Issei returned after a moment. Okay. That is amazing. I admit defeat. You're clearly the luckiest pervert in the world to get a girl you used to spy on. This is unfathomable. Rainer expressed in shock. Issei heard some people start to murmur at this recent turn of events and couldn't help but laugh internally. What a week, Issei thought, amused. Line break. At lunchtime, the trio of former perverts headed to the same place as the day before. After all, even though they stopped looking, the place was quite comfortable and provided a great source of shade. Teach us, master. Mitsuda and Motohama shouted once Issei had sat down. Wait, what? Issei asked, surprised. How the hell did you get Murayama to be so nice to you? You used to spy on her too, but she didn't crush you with a shinai in her pants. Mitsuda asked, wincing at the phantom pain he felt. I just talked to her, it's not that difficult. Issei responded with bewilderment, which was made worse when Motohama pulled out a notepad from somewhere on him, with his glasses focusing intently on it. About? Motohama asked excitedly. Well, she asked me about my reasons for agreeing to go on the date with her. Issei began, only for Motohama to begin scribbling anxiously. What did you say? Motohama asked, without looking up from his notebook. The truth. First of all, it would be really fun to see how badly you two fight on your dates. Secondly, I have no plans this weekend, and, finally, how can I not go out with a beautiful girl like her? Issei remembered. Whoa, that's gold. Motohama said in amazement as he finished writing and looked at Issei. But words like that, it's no wonder you got a harem. Mitsuda added in admiration. What do you mean? Issei asked, confused. You must teach us to be like you, Isay, as you was clearly sent to this planet to impart his wisdom to humbly perverted mortals like us. He said unfathomably, with Motohama nodding his head. Okay. First rule then, don't say stupid things like that. Isay said, to which Motohama obediently took notes, causing Isay to sweat. Secondly, always be honest with a girl. Be honest and don't lie to her. Isay continued. Third rule, you know what, the third rule is to obey the first two rules. Don't be too kinky and be honest and genuine with a girl, that's all you need to do. Isay finished thoughtfully. As the duo of non-harem perverts listened to the words of wisdom from the harem king, none of them noticed that a girl was listening to them a short distance away, with another person next to her listening as well. Line break. The day ended as normal for Isay, only this time he headed home with Zenovia and Irina in tow. Isay thought about asking Irina if Michael had told her anything about Grendel and what he and Dulio had investigated, but he reasoned that if Irina only has 2 wings, they probably wouldn't have told her, so he decided to visit heaven himself to get his answers straight from the source. When the familiar door appeared in front of Isay, he stepped into the light and finally made his way to the 6th floor. This time only Michael was present, but that was all he needed for now. Isay, I didn't expect you to come back so soon. Michael said, surprised. I was wondering a few things, which has to do with what Dulio and I found. Isay said. What are you thinking? Michael asked calmly. Well, for starters, does Irina know anything about this? For that matter, who exactly knows all this? Isay asked. Irina doesn't know, and outside of the Seraphim and Dulio, only you know the situation. Michael responded. I understand. I also have a question more directly related to the topic at hand. Exactly how strong are the current measures we have against dragons? For that matter, since I'm familiar with it, what kind of chance does Ascalon have against someone like Kromkruch? Isay asked. In reverse order, Ascalon would be able to seriously injure and even kill a dragon of Kromkruch's caliber. The only problem is having someone who can fight him and survive long enough to be able to use him to his full potential. Aside from Ascalon, there aren't many items we can use that are capable of specifically damaging dragons. Michael explained. Issei said thoughtfully, before making his boosted gear appear and taking out Ascalon, sticking out directly from the red glove. I guess I should probably learn how to use a sword then. I can use aura and increase it repeatedly for attacks, but I think direct contact would work better. Issei said. You'd be right in your train of thought. However, even without Ascalon, you yourself are capable of damaging powerful dragons with your own abilities. Combine that with the boosted gear, and you are a formidable opponent in your own right. However, since you have two very skilled sword wielders now living near you, training is a very valid option for you as well. Michael said. Issei raised an eyebrow at the fact that Michael already knew that arena and slips of paper. Now Issei, what I am about to give you must be kept quiet, particularly from devils and fallen angels, devils even more so. Michael said sternly. Issei nodded, prompting Michael to continue. Look, the Brave Saint system is ultimately quite limited. Only 54 angels. However, as I'm sure you know, devils have a system that allows various people to become people who are further down the energy chain. The angels have not been successful with this, as it appears that no angel can grant this type of power to anyone other than the seraphim themselves. We haven't tried it with Dulio, as he has a habit of being quite restless. However, when you stayed with Gabriel in heaven for almost a month, those on the floor below were able to get something from you. Michael explained, surprising Issei. You mean that's what those energy tests were for? I thought that was just to measure my powers as an angel, along with the boosted gear. Issei questioned. Indeed it was so. However, through this process, we determined that you may be able to reincarnate the angels yourself. The boosted gear already has an innate transferability, and along with that, it works according to your wishes and responds to your will. Michael said, before handing Issei 3 cards that were completely white on both sides. We were able to develop some cards, which can be successful in reincarnating someone into an angel. However, even when others tried to use these cards, they were unsuccessful. Since they were created directly from boosted gear's capabilities, we believe that only you can use them. Michael finished. Seriously, Issei gasped, taking the cards in his ungloved hand and looking at them in amazement. That's actually quite interesting. Michael makes a valid point, and I think Issei can make it. All sacred gears, not just mine, respond to the will of the user. Given how you were able to create different versions of boosted gear with your promotion ability, it seems like you would also be successful in converting people by using your transfer ability. It may also explain why your wings were red, leaving aside my presence. Drake commented, speaking from the glove. We are not sure who they can work on. Highly religious people, ordinary humans, devils, fallen angels, yokai, even dragons, but we entrust them to you, hoping that you will find people to use them and report back to us the results. Michael clarified. Hell you say. Issei muttered thoughtfully. I understand your thoughts, Issei, but if you continue forward, be aware of the problems you may create. Michael said sternly. I understand, Isay said calmly, waiting for Michael to determine what he was thinking, given what Michael had just revealed to him. In that case, you can leave now if you want. Gabriel is not here currently, unfortunately. However, if there is anything else you would like to discuss, please feel free to come to me as well. Michael said. Good. One last thing though, should I tell Arena any of this? Isay asked. If you do what I think you will do, which I urge you to think carefully about before continuing, you can do it, but only about the cards. It would be best if we did not alarm many about the possible threat of numerous evil dragons returning. Michael responded. Isay nodded before giving a small bow and leaving. Michael let out a small sigh once Isay was gone. I hope this doesn't cause even more tension between the 3 biblical factions. Michael thought darkly. When Isay returned from heaven, he went to his room and sat on his bed, deep in thought. Come on. Can't you be seriously thinking about this? You already fooled yourself once, why would you want to try something like this again? Rainer asked cynically. This is different, this is not personal. It's about the future and the possible war it could bring. Isay said to the figure in front of him. However, this can only happen through you, no one else, so it's very personal. You do not get it. This is equivalent to a peerage. Can you really trust one again? I mean, do you really trust him? Rainer asked calmly. Isay looked at the cards for a minute longer before putting them on his nightstand. Rainer smiled, but Isay looked at her. I don't doubt him, but this is a big decision and I need time to think about it. Isay defended. Sure, whatever helps you sleep at night. Rainer said goodbye with a wave of her hand. Sleep, that's not a bad idea. Isay muttered before taking off his school uniform. After Isay took off his shirt and jacket, he took off his pants, only for something to fall out of his pockets. Isay reached down and retrieved the small shiny object before laughing, seeing that it was a condom that Zenovia had been showing off. I mean, come on Isay, she just loves your kids like the cat. Rainer said boredly. Not true, as that wasn't always their original goal. Issei replied. Whatever, though, I'm surprised you're actually responding to me now. Did you finally realize how much you love me? Rainer asked cheekily. No, but if I'm alone, there's nothing wrong with talking to myself. Issei replied as he took out his pajama shorts and shirt before putting them on. So if we have sex, does that mean you're just masturbating? Rainer asked curiously. Issei looked at Rainer questioningly for a full minute, confusing her. Yes, you are definitely part of my brain, since questions like that keep me awake the whole night. Issei said, with a small smile on his lips. I could keep you awake another way, you know. Rainer purred. You actually can't, since you're not real. Isay said, before grabbing a pillow and throwing it at Rainer, causing her to disappear. Hey, that was rude, you know. Rainer said indignantly, as she appeared next to the bed, instead of on top of him, like he had been before. Whatever. Enjoy the silence for another 8 hours. Isay said, as he climbed onto the bed and closed his eyes, with a smile. Fuck. Rainer growled unhappily. Line break. When Isay woke up for the last day of school for the week, he paused for a moment to reflect on the week so far. Man, it's been one hell of a week. I honestly couldn't have imagined things like this before. Isay thought, surprised as he got dressed. It was finally Friday and tomorrow would be the triple date, which would be very interesting, and Isay was looking forward to it, mainly to see how Motohama and Mitsuda would act on a date, but also, because Murayama had managed to pique his interest yesterday. Her sudden friendliness baffled her and made him want to understand what could have caused the change. Just like yesterday, Isay left for school, with Irina and Zenovia in tow, before heading to his class. That week. I can't believe all of this has happened for 4 days, I doubt anything would happen today, that would be crazy. Rainer said, once again resting on Isay's desk. Well, this actually gives me an idea, and not just to spite you since you're really me anyway. Isay thought, making Rainer look at him curiously. Line break. When it was time for lunch, the trio of enthusiastic women were under their usual tree, only for Isay to surprise the other two when he stood up and told them to watch what he did next. In a move reminiscent of Mitsuda's actions on Monday, Isay headed to the Kendo club's locker room, but unlike Mitsuda, she waited outside for them to come out. The emerging girls looked at Isay warily, but said or did nothing. After most of them had left, Isay waited patiently for the last two to come out, which were Kadis and Murayama. Hello Isay, is something wrong? Murayama asked calmly. Well, not exactly bad, but I was wondering if you would do me a favor. Isay asked timidly. What kind of favor? Murayama asked, narrowing his eyes as she did so. Don't worry, none of that. I just wanted to know if you could teach me Kendo. If you're not too busy, I mean. Isay said quickly. Both Kadis and Murayama looked at Isay in surprise. Really? Why the sudden interest? Murayama asked curiously. Well, I know I can hold my own in a physical battle, but I think having an idea on how to use and defend against weapons might be helpful. Isay explained. And that occurs to you today, of all days, and in one of the most hectic weeks of the year. Murayama said suspiciously. Well, it's not like I planned, but I mean if you don't want to, it's okay, there are always other people I can ask. Isay said coldly, turning his back on the duo and beginning to walk back to the perverted duo. Will this affect tomorrow? Murayama asked curiously. No, tomorrow is still ready. This is something completely different. Isay said, pausing to look over his shoulder. Then I would be happy to do it. It would be interesting to see if your new physique has made you a better target. Murayama said, with a smile. Oh, I'm sure I'll surprise you. Isay said, with a wink. In that case, how about a quick match after school? Murayama's proposal. Sure, sounds good to me. Isay said, waving over his shoulder as he walked back to his fellow perverts. The week continues. Isay thought amused, watching Rainer huff in irritation. Line break. Surprisingly, the news had spread quickly once again through the school, with Isay suddenly taking an interest in Kendo. This also happened to reach the ears of a certain blonde. If we had known better, Isay probably would have come to me for help. Isay helped us all, but we couldn't help him, we really were terrible friends. Kiba thought, his face set in his usual fake smile, although beneath the surface, he was drowning in guilt. We need to do something about this. If both Zenovia and Irina can be forgiven, there is a chance, however small, that we can be forgiven too. Hyudou thought, with new determination. Line break. Isay headed to the outside combat ring for the Kendo club, located a stone's throw from their locker rooms. The school was now largely empty, and only a few people remained, who also had late club activities. When Isay arrived, he noticed Murayama, dressed in her Kendo attire and holding two shinai. You don't mind taking this test in your school uniform, do you? Murayama asked curiously. No, it's okay, surprisingly I'm quite comfortable in these clothes. Issei said, before quickly raising his left hand to grab the wooden stick that had been thrown at him. Quick reflexes, that's good, it'll help you avoid getting hit. Murayama said approvingly of Issei. Murayama approached Issei, holding his weapon down, informing Issei that the match was not yet about to begin. Murayama walked around Issei quickly, before stopping in front of him. Well, you have a balanced stance, so a fairly basic opening stance would be your best bet. Murayama said, before raising her shinai in front of her, bending her knees slightly. Her left foot was positioned at a 45-degree angle, and her right foot was pointing forward. Right hand up left in the tsuba. Lastly, Murayama was leaning forward slightly. This is the stance you should take. Murayama instructed. Issei observed the posture, before quickly imitating it. Well. Murayama said, nodding, before taking a few steps back. Now, before we begin, do you know the basic striking techniques? Murayama asked. More or less. These things are based on kenjutsu, which I've seen a lot of that, and we've seen enough of them to pick up most of it, I just wanted some hands-on experience. Issei confessed, with a smile. Murayama gave him a serious look, before her expression relaxed once again. In that case, let's train. Murayama said. Issei nodded, before the two looked at each other. Issei waited for Murayama to make the first move, and quickly advanced towards him and punched downwards. Issei held his shinai up, with a slight tilt to the left, making the wood resonate loudly. Issei quickly brought his sword down on Murayama's right wrist, only to find it blocked. Murayama then aimed a blow at the right side of Issei's abdomen, only for Issei to veer to the side and avoid the attack, moving him to Murayama's right and attempting a blow to his head. Murayama blocked him, and the two continued to trade blows back and forth. As the match continued, Murayama began to find herself equally surprised and frustrated. Issei being a complete rookie, he not only agreed with her, but made it so easy, almost as if he wasn't even challenged. After a few more hits, Murayama decided to stop holding back so much and began leveling faster and faster attacks on Issei, occasionally targeting his left side as well. To Murayama's surprise, Issei found no difficulty blocking on either side, which was surprising. Strikes to the left side were not common, outside of those aimed at the head, making many, at least a few, unbalanced when someone could hit both sides so fluidly. As his attacks accelerated, so did Issei. A furious pounding of wood on wood was all that was heard between the two. Finally, Murayama decided it was time to end this and quickly aimed it at Issei's throat. Murayama's eyes widened as she realized that Issei was not wearing the proper equipment and a blow to the throat would be devastating, possibly even paralyzing. Issei sensed the intent behind the attack. Before Murayama had even moved, Issei quickly grabbed the shinai with his left hand. I think that's enough for now. Issei said, grabbing Murayama's shinai at the tip with his left hand, just a hand's length away from his throat. Murayama blinked for a moment, completely surprised that Issei had caught her attack, but grateful for it. Why yeah, that's a good idea. Agreed Murayama. However, I must say it was interesting. It's different when I have my own. I can't really defend myself against you without it. Issei laughed as he released Murayama's shinai, remembering how many times his shinai had landed on his flesh in the past. Well, with reflexes like that, I think you'd make it. Murayama said, still a little amazed at Issei's speed. Anyway, thanks for this, see you tomorrow then. Hopefully, I won't be too annoying, so that you feel the need to reacquaint myself with your shinai again, after this. Issei said, as he handed his shinai to Murayama, who took it confused. What do you mean? Murayama asked. Well, I just needed to know the posture, that was all I really needed from this. I have known the postures for a long time, I can follow the rhythm of the movements, and, as you have seen, I have excellent reflexes. Issei said. Then why didn't you leave after that? Murayama asked confused. 2 reasons. First, I wanted to test myself with the best Kendo practitioner in this school. 2, is it so bad to want to see you up close in action? Watching from a distance is fine, but before, when you got up close and personal, it was usually to hit me. I just wanted to see you in action properly, that's all. However, I must say that you sure are dangerous with that thing. Issei said happily. So, that's it, are you done with Kendo? Murayama asked, somewhat disappointed. I guess, but I'll make sure to keep checking on you. Issei said, with a smile, before leaving. See you tomorrow. Issei said, waving over his shoulder. Murayama watched Issei leave in confusion, before looking at her shinai and widening her eyes. The tip of it was severely cracked and crumbling, as if one more blow would turn it into dust. Something definitely changed with Haidu. Murayama thought, before returning her Kendo equipment. Line break. You were so close. If you didn't stop, that thing would have turned into splinters. Rainer commented. I know. Issei muttered, with a blank expression. Rainer looked at Issei curiously, before shrugging her shoulders. Whatever then. Rainer sighed boredly. Issei headed to his apartment before heading to his shower. It hadn't been a particularly intense battle, for him anyway, but he'd still struggled a bit and going on a date without showering probably wasn't the best idea. After taking a shower, Issei returned to his bed and, while drying himself, looked at Azazel's photo. "That's so creepy, I feel like he's watching me sleep," Issei thought before trying to lower the picture frame, only to find that it wouldn't move. Issei frowned before sighing and simply throwing his towel over the picture. "That works," Issei thought before putting on his pajamas and going to bed. Line break. Finally it was Saturday. Time for the big date. It was only when Issei headed to school that he realized that he had no idea what to expect. I don't know how to feel wearing the same clothes you wore to my date with you. That being said, didn't I punch a hole through that shirt? Did you have a replica or something?" Rainer asked as she walked alongside him. Issei was dressed in a black t-shirt, black pants, and a lavender jacket on top, just like he had on his first and last date with Yuma Amano. That said, he completed them much more than he had done previously, thanks to his training. Going back to the current date, on the one hand, he was mainly a passenger in all of this, Mitsuda was the main part of the date, having asked Kadis. Then Kiryu and Motohama teamed up, and finally, he was cornered with Murayama. "I wonder if they will do better than you. I mean, our date was really good now that I think about it, you did the complete opposite of what a pervert should have done. I wonder if your friends are the same. Probably not," Rainer reflected thoughtfully. Arriving at school at 3 to noon, he was surprised to see that everyone else was already there. All of the girls were dressed in knee-length skirts, yellow for Murayama, blue for Kadis, and white for Kiryu, along with sleeveless tops and a light jacket since it was quite cold. Murayama was wearing a pink top, while Kadis was wearing a green one, and Kiryu was wearing a black one. Her jackets were red, green, and black for Murayama, Kadis, and Kiryu, respectively. Mitsuda was wearing tan pants and a short-sleeved white shirt, while Motohama was wearing blue jeans and a long-sleeved black and red plaid shirt. Sorry for making you wait," Issei said nervously. "Okay, we said noon. It was normal for us all to arrive early," Kiryu said, with the others nodding. "Alright, in that case, it's time to go to the first stop on the best date of your life," Mitsuda said very excitedly. "Well, I guess ours is your worst date. After all, how many dates end with you dying?" Rainer laughed. "Where first?" Kadis asked suspiciously. "The restaurant," Mitsuda said simply, before leaving. As the group began to walk, Issei noticed that Motohama had actually tried to fix his hair, however, his hair was as messy as ever, causing Issei to chuckle softly to himself. "Something funny?" Murayama asked, next to Issei. "Nothing, it's just that Motohama tried to comb his hair, but clearly failed miserably," Issei said amused. Murayama looked at Motohama before realizing what Issei was saying and stifled a chuckle. Mitsuda took the group to a rather nice Western-style restaurant. It seemed to specialize primarily in burgers, with the apt, if somewhat crude, name flame-grilled slabs. The group of 6 walked in and sat down after a minute, each couple sitting facing each other with Issei inside, Motohama in the middle, and Mitsuda on the edge of their booth. To the restaurant's credit, the food was good, perhaps too good, as Mitsuda was a little eager to eat, causing Issei to chuckle to himself at Kadis's slightly irritated expression. Afterwards, Motohama declared that they were going to watch a movie, and surprisingly, the movie wasn't perverted. A fairly simple murder mystery film, with a group of 20 people, all in their 30s, being invited to a high school classmate's luxurious mansion for dinner. "In my opinion, I wouldn't go if any of you came with something like this," Issei said to the group as they waited for the movie to start. "Why not?" Kiryu asked. "These things never end well, and not seeing someone for a decade means you have no idea what to expect. For all I know, one of you could be a crazy psychopath by the time he turns 30. Issei replied. "I think if anyone were to go crazy, it would be you, Isay," Kiryu joked. "You know, considering that in less than a year you died, became a devil, and then an angel, she's right," Rainer said, sitting next to Isay. From left to right, Rainer was sitting on Isay's left, Murayama on Isay's right, Kadis on Murayama's right, Mitsuda on Kadis's right, Kiryu on Mitsuda's right, and finally, Motohama on the other end. The movie started out like movies do, snippets of background information about the various characters and their history, with whoever is hosting the party on an island. However, once everyone arrived, the one who invited them was not present. "Oh, you just know people are going to start dying now," Rainer smiled. True to their words, one of them, a model, was found dead, with a sculpture of the Eiffel Tower embedded in her chest. After that, a rather large man, a construction worker, was found the next day, impaled on a model of a pyramid. After the fourth death, a woman was poisoned with spider venom, found only in Australia. People had begun to huddle together. Murayama was leaning on Issei's shoulder. Cadis had gotten closer to Mitsuda, and much to Issei's amusement, Motohama was holding Kiryu's hand and partially burying her face in his shoulder. Issei tried and managed to contain his laughter, but Rainer let out a loud laugh next to him, falling out of her chair in the process. The movie concluded as Issei had hoped, the host failing many times and becoming frustrated, revealing himself to the group, only for the man who had been impaled on the pyramid to have actually survived. Weakened as he was still able to bring the same pyramid, which had impaled him, up to the head of his much more scrawny attacker, breaking his neck. After that, he, along with the last two survivors, left the island and concluded the film. When the group left the cinema, Motohama had calmed down a bit but was still holding Kiryu's hand. Mitsuda, on the other hand, was now walking as close to Cadis as possible, without touching her. All in all, Issei was quite surprised by the progress they were both making. It was then that he looked down and noticed that Murayama was still leaning against his side, his left arm around his shoulders. Now, the last stop. Mitsuda declared, since after the 3-hour-long movie, the sun was officially warning to go down. It was still pretty high on the horizon, but another 2 or 3 hours and it would have dipped below the surface. The last stop, as Mitsuda had stated, was a karaoke bar, much to Issei's amusement, knowing how poorly both of his friends were singing. That being said, Issei was no angel, well, at least singing. Isay had let Mitsuda and Motohama do their embarrassing duet. However, despite it being embarrassing, it certainly created a fun atmosphere, so much so that Issei mustered up the courage to kill a song of his own. One pop song later and Issei found that, strangely enough, his singing had improved and, to his embarrassment, the group had forced him to sing another one, only this time they had chosen it for him. Melody of the Wild Dance by Sid had appeared and Issei smiled, being familiar with the song and, in fact, quite liking it. As he finished the song, Issei looked at the group of 5 and noticed that they were all looking at him in amazement. Is something wrong? Issei asked nervously. When the hell did you become such a good singer? You were just as bad as we were a few months ago. Mitsuda said in shock. I don't know. Issei said timidly. After that, the girls sang to Dixity by Stillips and surprised the perverted trio. Wow, they sounded just like them. Issei exclaimed, with the other two nodding silently. Well, Cadis and I have practiced it a lot, but Kiryu did a really good job too. Murayama said happily. After a few more performances of various songs, Mitsuda proposed the idea of the couple singing songs together. There was quite a bit of grumbling, most of them feeling that a duo was definitely not their thing, much more suited for people twice their age, but Mitsuda persisted and the rest eventually relented. As expected, Mitsuda and Motohama tried their best, but singing really wasn't their thing. However, when Issei and Murayama stood up, the other 4 watched them with interest, expecting a duet between 2 pretty good singers. The song chosen at random by the 2 was Possibility, a duet between Daichi Miura and Boadad. As the 2 sang, their friends watched in admiration. A duet was difficult enough to pull off, even between 2 good singers, but the duo of Issei and Murayama put on an absolutely stunning performance. When they finished, his friends applauded and to his embarrassment, so did a few others who were also at the karaoke club. I'm not doing that again. Issei snorted, with a small blush. Murayama, with a slightly bigger blush, nodded her head. But you guys were so good. Cadis exclaimed. Yeah, you completely buried us, you know. Who would have thought that Issei was such a good singer? Motohama lamented, with an ironic smile. What's your secret, Issei, that you've been taking lessons since last time? Kiryu joked. Actually, it's because you're an angel now. You didn't think having the voice of an angel was just an expression, did you? Rainer joked. No, I don't know, maybe I was just having a bad day back then. Issei laughed nervously. The group continued singing for another hour, but no more duets were sung, and Issei did not sing again, too embarrassed by the applause that might follow. When the group came out, it had gotten dark, or at least it would have been, if it weren't for all the neon lights. The group left the Kuo Entertainment District and returned to the residential part, where everyone lived. The group slowly separated, with Mitsuda offering to take Cadis to her house, which she accepted, causing Mitsuda to smile and Issei to raise an eyebrow. It seems they did better than you thought. Rainer commented, after Motohama and Kiryu left. So Murayama, where to go from here? Issei asked. Just a little more that way. Murayama muttered sleepily. In what way? Issei asked, only to see that Murayama was practically sleepwalking, leaning on him for support. Issei gave a small sigh, before turning slightly to head towards his apartment. Oh, what are you going to do now? Bring her back for some hot steamy action. Rainer joked. Issei seemed unfazed by her words. I'm a pervert sometimes. Issei sighed internally. Hey, you were thinking about it, otherwise I wouldn't have said it. Rainer joked. Issei sighed audibly this time, but didn't respond to the fallen angel. My mind is messed up, no matter what it looks like. Issei thought dryly. When Issei saw the stairs to his compound, he realized what he had to do and gently, without disturbing her too much, he moved Murayama in his arms and carried her up the stairs. Thanking himself for not closing the door, Issei opened the door and left Murayama on the couch, before moving into the kitchen. It was close to 10, too late for anything big, but Issei thought some tea would be nice. As the water boiled, Issei poured 2 cups. Murayama began to wake up after Issei had placed the tea on her table, prompting her to look around in confusion. This is my apartment. I actually don't know where you live and you fell asleep with me, so I brought you here. Tea? Issei offered. Murayama looked around for a minute before looking at his tea and bringing it to her lips. Issei watched her hold her cup in her hands for a minute, staring into the watery depths. Issei, is there something wrong with me? Murayama asked softly. That? What do you mean? Issei asked confused. I mean, is there something wrong with me that repels guys? Is it my personality? Am I too aggressive? Is it my looks? Am I not attractive? Murayama asked in a low voice. Oh ho, looks like you're not the only one with insecurities. Rainer commented in amusement. No, you're great. You are intelligent, athletic, pretty and kind, why do you ask that? Issei asked confused. If that's the case, how come no one approaches me with romantic intent? I'm probably the least popular girl in our class, hardly anyone looks at me anymore, even before when the 3 of us were picked on earlier, that was it. I don't understand, what's wrong with me? Murayama asked unhappily. There's nothing wrong with you I guess and people aren't interested in you. It doesn't mean you're not attractive, it just means you haven't met the right person yet. Issei said awkwardly. Do you know how it felt to see Kiryu and Katis get dates? Then, to top it all off, I had to ask you to be my date. Murayama muttered unhappily. Issei stood up and approached Murayama before wrapping her shoulders in a hug with her left arm. Even if they hadn't asked me, I would have loved to go on a date with you. You are a great person Murayama and a beautiful girl. Like I said before, any guy would be lucky to go on a date with you. Issei spoke sweetly. Issei, even with all the girls you have with you do you compare me? Do I even register on your radar? Just thinking about Reincarnating Zenovia and I can't see why anyone would be interested in me. They are both so unique, but both so perfect in their own way. Murayama spoke. She has a point. Compared to people like the cat or the angel, she is not particularly notable, right? Rainer commented thoughtfully. It's not right to compare yourself to others, you are special in your own way. Issei said. Murayama frowned at this. Murayama, let's be honest. A few months ago I was a hugely hated pervert and wouldn't have dreamed of having just one girlfriend, much less many. I didn't do anything to change myself though, I finally found people who appreciated what I had to offer. It's not like there's a magic way to make anyone like you or me. When you meet someone who appreciates you the same way, you will discover how special you are. Issei said kindly. Issei was surprised when Murayama suddenly kissed him. On the lips. I never hated you. I always liked you. Murayama admitted, surprising Issei. Oh, plot twist. Rainer said excitedly. Even when you took a look at us and we hit you, I always tried to avoid any place that hurt and never hit harder. Although I didn't like that you looked at me like that, I felt a strange satisfaction that you wanted to see me. I wanted you to see me, just in different circumstances. Murayama confessed. Issei took a moment to reset his brain. Have you loved me? You like me? Issei asked stunned. Yeah, and then when all those girls started showing interest in you, I could feel your interest in me fading. Sure, you stopped looking at us, but even in class and outside of it, you barely gave me a glance. It was like I no longer met the standards to be worth it. Murayama responded. Well, to be fair, you've been pretty busy these last few months. That said, of course they were prettier than her, in both ways. It is only natural that her standards have been high. Rainer commented calmly. Even though you were a pervert, you were my pervert. Beyond all that, you were genuine to me. I heard what you said to those two, about being genuine even before all this, you didn't lie. Although it was highly inappropriate, you didn't feign interest in me, you found me attractive. Murayama continued. Murayama, you don't need to be like this. You are special and one day someone will see you as such. No need to lower your standards to a pervert like me. Issei said seriously. You do not get it. You are that special person, no one else looks at me like you do. You see me as someone special. That's why it hurts to see you with everyone. Don't you understand? You are that special person, no one else looks at me like you do. You see me like them. I know I can't measure up to any of them, and I felt like I was losing the only person who would ever see me as someone special. Murayama shouted, equal parts annoyance and sadness. I have to admit, I didn't see this coming. Rainer said surprised. Even if you are interested in others, even if you have done things with others, I still want to be with you. It's not fair that they take away the only person for me. Murayama continued. Issei was stunned into silence, not knowing how to respond to that. Curiously, Rainer was just as stunned and there was silence throughout the room for about 30 seconds before Issei's brain rebooted once again. But why? I mean, there are still a lot of people out there. You don't have to settle for me. Issei said confused. You do not get it, I'm not settling for you. Murayama said, before straddling Issei's lap and grabbing his head. I want to be with you. Murayama said firmly, before pressing her lips against Issei's. It took Issei a moment to react, but once he did, much to Murayama's joy, he reciprocated. When the two separated, Issei looked at the fallen angel, still speechless on his couch, before frowning. What is it? Murayama asked worriedly. It's just there are some things about me that you don't know and it's pretty big. Issei said. Just answer me this. Murayama said firmly, making Issei look at her. Does it change how you feel about me in any way? Murayama asked. No, but it might change how you feel about me and might make you want to reconsider what you're getting into. Issei said. Murayama thought for a moment before surprising Issei as he attacked his lips again. I don't care then. As long as your feelings for me don't change, I'll accept it, whatever it is. Murayama declared, surprising Issei. But this is something really big. Issei stuttered. I'd rather see other important things, unless everyone talked. Murayama said dryly, causing Issei to step back slightly, before smiling. So are you sure about this, nothing will change your mind? Issei asked jokingly. Yes, my mind is made up. Murayama replied, only for Issei's smile to widen. We'll see about that, but in the meantime. Issei said confidently, before picking up Murayama, who quickly wrapped her legs around Issei's waist and held onto her shoulders for support. Issei led Murayama to the door of his room and opened it, entering backwards. Issei lowered Murayama onto his bed, before pressing his lips firmly against hers. Murayama moaned into his kiss, enjoying Issei suddenly taking control of her. Issei's hands roamed Murayama's thighs, with ample access to them thanks to Murayama's skirt. Murayama slid her hands over Issei's shoulders and took off her jacket. Issei broke away from her kiss to remove his jacket completely, before pressing himself against Murayama again, her right hand caressing her left butt. Murayama's butt was pretty tight from her training, but deliciously soft to Issei's touch. Murayama, we don't have to do this. I understand that you feel bad, but there is no need to rush into things. Issei said calmly. I don't rush into things. I've been waiting for this for months. Murayama said unhappily. Anyway, we don't have to do this so soon, I mean, don't you think this is a little quick? Issei said weakly. Issei, if you think I'm ugly or something, you can say so. I don't want to force this on you either, no matter how much I want to. Murayama said in a low voice. You're not ugly, Murayama, Issei said quickly. Then why are you rejecting me? Do you think I would let anyone do this? I would only do this for you, Issei, because I love you. Murayama shouted, making Issei freeze. Ah, how many times have you heard those words before, I wonder? Rainer sighed dramatically. Murayama, I'm sorry, but I just want to make sure. Are you sure you want to do this? You can't come back after this. Issei said softly. In more ways than one. Rainer added. Murayama seemed to be close to tears almost. Issei, I love you, please. Murayama said weakly. Issei sighed internally, before pressing his lips against Murayama's. Alright, I'll give you what you want then. Issei said with resignation. Murayama smiled, before grabbing Issei and pushing him towards the edge of the bed. Then let's get started. Murayama said, before grabbing Issei's pants and taking them off, before taking off her skirt. Murayama then straddled Issei again, and brought their nether regions together, only two pieces of cloth preventing them from directly touching. Murayama kissed Issei hard, and they both let out a low moan, as their pelvic regions slid against each other. You know, from this angle, I noticed that she looks a lot like your mother. Rainer said. Issei paused his thrusting and looked at the fallen angel indignantly. And you bring that now? Why? Issei shouted internally, resuming his thrusting. That? I only noticed it a moment ago, I'm sure Drake agrees with me. Rainer defended. Don't bring me into this. Drake growled. Well, just answer the question, doesn't she look like Issei's mother? Rainer asked, with a smile. Enough, now leave me out of this. She growled. Drake again. Now, how are you supposed to explain that it's because you realized she looks like the woman who gave birth to you? Rainer asked jokingly. I've never actually used one of these before. Issei stuttered. You mean you normally do it without protection? Why did you have one in the first place then? Murayama asked curiously. Zenovia kept showing them, so I took one from her. In fact, I forgot she had it, so when I took off my school clothes, it fell off and I just left it there. Issei confessed. Murayama looked at Issei questioningly. That was something that came up on the spot, completely true, but it's not the real reason why little Issei couldn't explode. Congratulated Rainer. Then, Murayama said, pushing Issei onto the bed before she knelt. Wow. Wow. This girl may be human, but I'm seeing more seduction in her than in that cat and a group of fallen angels in the past. Wow. Rainer commented in shock. Are you sure? Because? Issei asked hesitantly. Well, I can't take your first time like I would have liked, but I wouldn't mind taking another first time of yours, if you want. Murayama said, blushing bigger, avoiding Issei's gaze. If you want, then I will be very careful. Issei said. Murayama nodded slightly before moving so she was lying on the bed. Issei paused for a moment, wondering what to do next. Just use your senjutsu to make some lube. If senjutsu works to stimulate the body and the body is mostly water, it shouldn't be obvious. Rainer sighed. How exactly do you know that? Issei asked suspiciously. I read a lot. Rainer said. Line break. Issei sighed as he plopped down next to Murayama, who was trying to catch her breath. Do you want to call it a night? Issei asked. Of course. Murayama said tiredly. He'll have to toughen up if he wants to survive the cat, but I have to admit I didn't expect her to suggest a little backdoor exploration, which gives her extra points in my book. Rainer said appreciatively. Issei crawled towards Murayama before, with some effort, the two embraced each other. Good night, Murayama. Issei said. Good night, Issei. Murayama said before they both fell asleep. When Issei woke up, he felt someone next to him. Opening his eyes, he saw a head of brown hair and remembered the events of the previous night. Wow, I didn't see that coming at all. Issei muttered. Me neither, but I can't say I'm disappointed. Murayama laughed, next to her. Oh, you're awake. Good morning, did you sleep well? Issei asked. Alright, I just wish I didn't feel so sore. Murayama complained. Yeah, it's pretty painful the first time, but then again, we did something I've never tried before, so maybe it's more painful, I don't know. Issei commented. So what was it you said that would change the way I see you? Murayama asked, sitting on the bed, holding the sheets against his chest. Well, before I say that, what do you think of angels and devils? Issei asked, sitting up as well. I never really thought about that, why? Murayama asked confused. Well, what if I told you they were real? Issei asked nervously. I'm not sure, maybe I'll ask you if you're feeling okay. Murayama joked. What if I told you I was one? Issei asked carefully. Demon or angel? Murayama joked. Both at one point. Issei confessed. Are you feeling okay, Issei? Murayama asked suspiciously. You know what you need to do. Rainer commented with a smile, waiting for what Murayama would do. I'm fine, but let me show you something. Issei said, turning to Murayama, who did the same. Murayama watched with idle curiosity before going into a state of shock as 10 crimson-colored wings burst from Issei's back. I'm an angel. Issei revealed. Murayama's reaction was completely unexpected for both Rainer and Issei. Murayama laughed. Not a giggle or a laugh, but a full-throated laugh. Seriously, the kinkiest person I know is an angel. Murayama laughed in disbelief. Are you okay just accepting that I'm an angel just like that? Issei asked confused. Murayama held back her laughter and controlled herself before speaking. Well, you're not lying, are you? You're being honest with me, right? Murayama asked. Issei nodded in confusion, while Murayama simply smiled. Then, of course, I believe you. Murayama said sharply. Issei was stunned, not knowing how to respond to this. I can't believe this garbage. Who accepts these things so easily? Rainer yelled exasperated. Although, can I ask you something? Murayama asked. Sure. Issei said. Are Zenovia and Irina the same? Murayama asked curiously. Yeah, Zenovia is a devil, and Irina is an angel like me. Isay replied. Well, that at least explains why you suddenly had all those girls interested in you. This is pretty big. Murayama commented. Do you understand that? Frankly, you're taking this path better than I did the first time. Isay said hesitantly. Well, I'm surprised, don't get me wrong, but I was starting to suspect a few things. First, how did you, of all people, join the occult research club, something so rare that there were less than half a dozen members? Then there were all the new students who kept showing up, Asia, Zenovia and Irina, who all knew you and all joined the club as well. I felt very suspicious. Murayama said. I understand. Issei said surprised. You know, for having bigger than average breasts, she's pretty sneaky too. How do you still have girls like that? Rainer said surprised. That being said, I didn't see this coming, just something suspicious. Added Murayama. Issei hummed at this, but didn't speak. So who else is a devil or an angel? I'm curious. Murayama asked. Well, only Irina and I are angels. The occult research club and the student council are all devils. Issei revealed. How many people? Wow. Although, how do angels feel comfortable surrounded by devils? Murayama asked curiously. Well, there was actually a big treaty between the angels, fallen angels, and devils a few months ago, just a little bit before the break. Isay replied. Fallen angels? Murayama asked. Angels who fell due to impure desires, most commonly, lust. Isay explained, making Murayama laugh. How are you still an angel then? You're practically an embodiment of lust. Well, at least you were. Murayama said. Well, actually I was a devil until a month ago. Just before my little self-discovery. Isay revealed. Is that why you became less perverted? Murayama asked. Yeah, well, that and finally having sex a bunch of times. Once you start doing that you calm down a lot. That's probably why Mitsuda and Motohama stay the way they are. Isay said. Exactly how many times have you done it? Murayama asked, his eyes narrowed. On my lost count maybe 50. Isay said thoughtfully. Wow. Murayama said. Anyway, is there anything else you want to ask? Isay asked. Can I use your shower? Murayama asked. Of course. Isay laughed. Murayama stood up from the bed before finding that her legs were terribly weak and she collapsed onto the bed. I'm sorry about that, but since you know I'm an angel, I can fix that. Isay said sheepishly as he got off the bed and walked towards Murayama before placing his hand just below her navel. A brief red glow surrounded Isay's palm before dissipating. Murayama stood up and found that her pain and weakness had disappeared. Angel magic? Murayama asked curiously. Actually, Senjutsu. Isay replied. Do you know Senjutsu? Murayama asked confused. Yes, I learned it from the same person who took my virginity and she used sex as positive reinforcement. Isay confessed. Murayama laughed at that. Super effective without a doubt. Murayama commented amused, to which Isay nodded. Isay then led Murayama to the shower before grabbing a towel for her. I'll go get your clothes. I don't really have women's clothes here, sorry. Isay said. I'd be a little worried if you did. Murayama said before turning on the water, letting Isay return to his room. Fortunately, her clothes had been fairly easy to find. Isay took her clothes and threw them into his laundry basket before grabbing a red shirt and black shorts and putting them on his bed along with Murayama's next to his. After Murayama finished her shower, she came out wrapped in a towel and Isay found himself distracted. Not that I don't appreciate the compliment, but you should probably shower yourself. Murayama said. Isay looked at her in confusion before realizing that he was still naked and that little Isay was enjoying the show. Oh, right. Isay said before going to shower. It was when Isay began to bathe that he noticed a still dazed Rainer. You've been pretty quiet until now. Isay said quietly. Who accepts all this so easily? I cannot believe it. Rainer exclaimed. Isay laughed, enjoying Rainer's confusion before finishing his shower as quickly as he could. Getting out of the shower, Isay returned to his room where Murayama was fully dressed, sitting on his bed. Isay quickly dressed as well before leading her to the living room. And now that? Murayama asked. I don't know, to be honest, I'm really surprised that you took everything so well. Isay said. That's when Isay heard his door open and looked at it. After a moment, Irina had opened the door and she and Zenovia had entered. Hey girls, did you sleep well? Isay asked. Not as well as you did, from the sound of things. Zenovia commented. Isay blinked in confusion before the meaning of Zenovia's words hit him. Oh, Isay said before letting out an awkward chuckle. Murayama had buried her head in her hands in shame before raising her head in shock at Zenovia's next words. So when can I get my turn? Zenovia asked. See Zenovia, what are you saying? A nervous Irina asked. Are all devils so direct? Murayama asked, surprising the duo, who were unaware of Murayama's newfound knowledge. No, only Zenovia is like that. She is one of a kind her. Isay said calmly. Isay, is there something we're missing here? Irina asked nervously. Oh, she knows about devils and angels. She was much better than me at figuring that out. Isay said, pointing at Murayama, who simply smiled at the two. I see. In that case, how was it? Zenovia asked, making Irina and Murayama blush. Maybe that's too much to ask, Zenovia. Isay chuckled before calming his laughter. However, now that you are here, I have a serious question I need to ask you, Zenovia. Isay said seriously. Seriously? You'll make it. Haven't you learned anything in the last few months? Rainer shouted. What is it? Zenovia asked. Would you like to become an angel? Isay asked, making Irina look at him in surprise. What do you mean, Isay? Is one of the seraphim interested in Zenovia? Irina asked. Not exactly a second. Issei said nervously before heading to his room again. Seraphim? Murayama asked confused. Yes, Lord Michael, Lord Raphael, Lord Uriel and Lady Gabriel, they are the 4 seraphs capable of turning people into angels. Irina explained happily. Yes, Gabriel was the one who turned me into an angel, while Michael was the one who turned Irina. Added Issei, once he returned from his room. So, Issei, which one does Zenovia want? Irina asked curiously. Well, believe it or not, none of them. Issei said, making Irina gasp and Zenovia frown. What do you mean? Irina asked, glancing at Zenovia out of the corner of her eye. Well, you know I was in heaven for almost a month, right? Issei asked, to which Irina nodded. Did you go to heaven? Murayama asked in shock. Oh yeah, beautiful place, I'll see if I can show it to you sometime. Issei replied, turning to Murayama for a moment before looking at Irina again, ignoring Murayama's stunned expression. Well, when I was there, they were investigating why I couldn't fall. A few days ago I found out that they were also examining the boosted gear, along with the Brave Saint system, and discovered something. Issei said, as he took out the 3 cards from his pockets. They think I could reincarnate people, like some kind of peerage of my own. Issei revealed. Then I accept. Zenovia said quickly, surprising Issei. Are you sure? I didn't even finish explaining. Issei questioned in surprise. I know I often say I love your children, but even when you were a devil, I told you, when you have a peerage of your own, I would happily join you. To tell the truth, I never had great loyalty towards her. She saw an opportunity and took advantage of it. It didn't help that I was also quite reckless. If she could be a part of whatever it is with you, I don't regret my decision. Zenovia explained forcefully. Issei was taken aback for a moment before smiling. I understand. Issei said quietly. Oh, she could be cheating on you. Rainer interjected. Then. Issei said, before his wings exploded from his back and a halo appeared above his head, along with the boosted gear appearing on his left arm. Murayama had turned to Irina, while Zenovia had approached Issei. What is that about Issei's hand? It doesn't look like something an angel would have. Murayama asked in a low voice. That is Issei's sacred gear, a gift from God, containing the soul of the legendary red dragon. Irina explained. The dragon? Murayama questioned. I'll explain it to you a little later, Murayama. Issei said, having heard her muttering. Now, I'm not sure how it works exactly, Issei said, at last. Place the letter on top of the gauntlet, on the jewel would react. Drake intervened, surprising Murayama. But speak. Murayama whispered. Yes, that's Drake, the dragon inside him. Irina said happily. Now, put your hand on the swordswoman. Drake instructed. Issei obeyed and placed his hand on Zenovia's right shoulder. Transfer. Drake said imposingly. Issei felt a small amount of his power disappear, along with the card. Zenovia glowed red and gold for a minute before something shot out of her, straight towards Issei. Issei quickly caught the projectile with his right hand before opening it and seeing a red knight piece. It's going to be a pain. Issei growled at his thoughts before refocusing his attention on Zenovia. When the glow faded, Zenovia blinked a few times. That's how it is. It's done. Zenovia asked. Well, just one way to see if it worked or not. Issei said. Zenovia paused for a moment before making her wings appear, making Irina gasp and Issei smile. Zenovia's wings were those of an angel now, which made Issei smile, although they were also crimson. Ooh, it's not fair. Why did Zenovia get 4 wings from the beginning, while I only have 2? Irina complained. I'm not so sure. Issei muttered in surprise. Zenovia moved her wings experimentally before stopping. Interesting, does this mean I can't fall either? Zenovia asked curiously. Maybe, I'm not sure how to prove it, Issei began, before Zenovia quickly rushed Issei and kissed him, pushing him to the floor. Irina gasped, while Murayama looked on in surprise. After half a minute, Zenovia sat up before allowing Issei to do the same. This is perfect. Not only am I an angel and part of your peerage, now I can have your babies too. Thank you, Lord, for this wonderful gift. Zenovia said, giving a small prayer. Well, I think we need another name that isn't peerage, but it looks like it. Issei said, before helping Zenovia to her feet, along with himself. Issei opened his right hand again and looked at the piece, before placing it on his table. This thing is going to be a pain, though. Issei muttered, looking at the chess piece in annoyance. Issei, do you think I could become an angel too? Murayama asked curiously, surprising everyone. Maybe. I still don't know exactly how the cards work, and it might have just worked on Zenovia because she has great faith. Michael gave me the cards to try out first. Issei responded carefully. Well, wouldn't that be a good test? Murayama countered. Issei opened his mouth to speak before closing it. Talking seriously? Are you really considering this? You are too trusting. First me, then the red one, don't you learn from your mistakes? Rainer asked cynically. It's better to open your heart than to close it. You may feel pain occasionally, but it's better than missing out on something special. Issei thought. Alright then Murayama, let's try it. Issei said, with a smile. Really? Murayama asked excitedly. Sure, you handled all of this pretty well, so I guess I can trust you. That said, if it works, there are a lot of other things I'll need to tell you. Issei said kindly, before getting serious towards the end. Well. Murayama said, before moving to stand in front of Issei, as Zenovia stepped back. Issei took out the second card, resting his hand on Murayama's right shoulder, before putting the card into his jewel. Transfer. Drake said back. Murayama felt a strange tingling sensation come over her, before she too was bathed in a red and gold glow. If it worked, how am I supposed to make the wings appear? Murayama asked. Just flex and squeeze your shoulder blades. Issei instructed. Murayama concentrated for a minute before doing so and felt a strange weight on her back. Looking back, Murayama saw 2 red angel wings. It worked. Murayama cheered. Of course I think I should talk to Michael about this. Issei said in amazement. We can go? Irina asked. You know, it would probably be better if you go, especially you two. They may need to check things out with the two of you. Issei said, looking at Murayama and Zenovia. Issei made the portal to heaven appear in his room, before gesturing for the others to go through first. Murayama was a little doubtful of her, but after Issei put his hand on her shoulder and gave her a reassuring nod, she relaxed. Well, I said I'd show you heaven. So here it is. Issei said to Murayama, enjoying her shocked expression. This is really heaven. It is real. Murayama asked in shock, as the 4 of them walked through the doors. Yes, it's actually divided into levels, even. The heaven that everyone knows about, the place where souls go after they die, is on the 3rd level. The 5th floor is where they do all their research and where they would have developed the card I used on you. Issei explained, as the group walked towards the elevator. How many levels are there? Murayama asked excitedly. 7 in total. I spent most of my time here on the 4th and 6th levels, which is where the Garden of Eden is and where the Seraphim reside, respectively. Issei explained. The 1st floor is where most of the other brave saints and lower-level angels like me reside, while the 2nd floor is where angels who have sinned are punished. Amen. Irina added. The 2nd floor is also where the angels watch the stars, so it's pretty dark. Issei added. What is the 7th floor for? Murayama asked, as they exited the elevator. That is where the sacred gear system and my father, Yahweh's system reside. It is responsible for the divine protection of our followers and the way miracles are performed. Michael said, walking towards the group to greet them. Hello Zenovia, it's good to see you again. I'm also sure that a certain someone will be happy to see you too. Michael said. Who would it be? Zenovia asked. It's been a while, young warrior Zenovia. Said a polite voice to the left of her. Issei laughed a little, seeing Zenovia go completely white and robotically spin around to face the voice. SSSSSS sister, Griselda. Zenovia stammered uncontrollably. I never thought I would see you here. The woman, who was wearing a veil, commented. She had blue eyes and appeared to be of Northern European descent. She was a true beauty, even through the nun's attire of hers, it was clear that she had quite an impressive figure. She looked to be in her early 20s, and she possessed a warm smile, although, instead of giving off the usual warm aura of hers, an intimidating aura was rolling over her in waves. Griselda approached Zenovia and grabbed her face with both hands. How have you been? Zenovia stuttered. Issei had never seen Zenovia sweating so much and talking so nervously. It was actually quite fun for Issei. How have you been, isn't that something you should say now? Why did you reincarnate into a devil after coming to Japan for a mission? Not only that, why haven't you contacted me until now? If there's something I really want to ask you, is it what you're doing here, showing your face? Griselda asked, with a terrifying smile. I was about to go crazy when I heard that you went to Japan and were reincarnated as a devil. You, who I have raised with God's teachings, became a devil. You always acted on your own and created a strange theory all the time, so everyone treated you like a troublesome girl, but I always thought of you like a good-hearted girl. Griselda continued, causing Zenovia to sweat even more. Sister, in all seriousness, it really wasn't Zenovia's fault. She is easily influenced and is too impulsive for her own good. However, since she is now an angel, I am sure you can re-educate her. Issei said kindly, causing Zenovia's eyes to turn to him in fear. Ah, you're more sadistic than I thought. Rainer chuckled. I see. If the former incarnation of sin and lust is vouching for you, then it seems there is still hope for you. Griselda said. I guess the process worked then. Michael commented, to which Issei nodded. Both in a reincarnated devil and in a human. Issei said, pointing at Murayama. Hello Murayama, I am Archangel Michael, it is a pleasure to meet you. Michael said, giving Murayama a kind smile. Hello, Lord Michael sir, it's an honor to meet you too. Murayama said nervously, not knowing how to talk to one of the most well-known angels of all time. Don't worry Murayama, you don't need to be nervous. Lord Michael is very kind and he would never think badly of anyone. Irina said reassuringly. Yes, please relax. Michael added calmly. Murayama nodded slightly, but did not speak. It also seems that they may have gained the ability to not fall, like me, but I think it would be best to test if that is the case, just to be sure, so I recommended that we come here. Issei said. That is a wise decision, I think we can do everything by today since we have already established the tests to determine this through Issei. Sister Griselda, would you mind taking Zenovia and Murayama to the 5th floor? Michael asked politely. Of course Lord Michael, I have much to discuss with young Zenovia after all. Griselda said pleasantly, still holding Zenovia's face in her hands. Irina, perhaps you would like to join them. I'm sure some of our more recent inventions will hold your interest, especially the ones Issei has proven instrumental in creating. Michael said. Wait, you mean there's more to it than just the cards? Issei asked surprised. Of course. As far as angels are concerned, you are one of a kind, being incapable of falling. This has always been one of our biggest problems to deal with, so having the opportunity to fix it is immensely beneficial for us. Michael explained. Makes sense, I guess. Issei said thoughtfully. We will take our leave now Lord Michael. Griselda said, to which Michael nodded before the others left, leaving Issei and Michael alone. Any news on the situation? Issei asked seriously, once the others left. Unfortunately not. The vampires are still extremely wary of us, and we haven't conducted any other reconnaissance missions since yours. Communication between the other two factions is also not giving news. We're mainly guessing at this stage. Michael confessed. I understand. Issei said, frowning. Other than that, you realize that with what you've done, you may have to face certain people. Michael said. I know. I thought I was over it, but seeing them again it seems like I haven't moved as much as I'd like. Issei sighed tiredly. Time heals all wounds Issei, however, a month is not a long time. I encourage you to be patient and spend time with your loved ones. They will support you and help you get through this after all. I'm sure you know that Gabriel and I would be willing to help you too, in any way we can. Michael said patiently. Can I ask a question then? Issei asked, to which Michael nodded. How could you forgive the Fallen and the Devils, knowing that they had killed dozens of your supporters? Especially the Fallen, knowing that they had directly betrayed you. How do you ignore that? Issei asked desperately. Issei, in this world, there are two types of people. Those who can forgive and those who cannot. It is by no means easy to forgive someone, but it is possible. You just need to realize that even if you have been wronged, there are still those who will stay with you no matter what. Michael said kindly. I will never turn against you, nor ask for more than you can give. I know you have my love, forever and be strong. Issei smiled as he remembered Gabriel's words. I understand. Issei said, with a smile. I'm glad I could be of help. Michael said happily. Line break. Isay had stayed with Michael and listened to what had been happening at the various churches, as well as any information they had gathered about possible threats, before the girls arrived. Isay laughed as he looked at Zenovia, who looked like half of her soul had been sucked out. The group had returned after that, with Murayama leaving to return home, after Isay had told her about Drag, the death of biblical god Yahweh, the events of the year so far, and told her how important it was to keep everything hidden from those who were not directly involved. Isay had accompanied Murayama to her house and left before anyone could see him, before returning home, only to find a certain fallen angel on his couch again. It's rude to just meddle like that, Isay said clearly, closing the door behind him. Ah, forgive me then, Azazel said shamelessly. That reminds me, though, when did this happen? Isay asked, pointing to the framed photo of him and Azazel. Azazel smiled at Isay. When you took the first step to fulfill my dream, Azazel declared proudly. Again, how did you become the Archangel of Justice before? Isay asked, then he sighed. How you can take that huge photo of my room? What the hell did you do to it that it can't take it down? Isay shouted. A secret, of course. Although, I think you have more secrets than I expected, Azazel said, showing what he had been hiding in his right hand. Zenovia's ancient evil piece. Isay stiffened at this, but was surprised when Azazel simply threw it at Isay. You should get rid of that as soon as possible. If it hadn't been someone as forgiving and curious as me who had stumbled upon it, you could have made a pretty tense situation happen, Azazel said sternly. I will do that. Isay sighed, grateful that Azazel didn't rat him out to the other factions. However, as you remember, there is someone who would like to see you. I told you this before. That being said, despite the situation, it would be much safer if this happened at your old house. Azazel said calmly. Issei frowned before giving another sigh. Well, Issei said, surprising everyone gathered. So? Do you agree to go back there? Azazel asked, surprised. I've heard enough from both Gabriel and Michael to know that eventually I will have to forgive them. I'm not saying it's easy, I don't even think I'm ready for it, but this is a good reason to start at least trying. Furthermore, it is not good to dwell on past sorrows, as it will dampen future joys. Issei said tiredly. I see, how mature and, dare I say, like an angel of you. Azazel commented with interest. Well, we'll see how things go. Issei said. In that case, I will arrange for the guests to arrive at the Haidu residence tomorrow afternoon. He left you three for now. Azazel said, before leaving. Issei, are you sure about this? Irina asked tentatively. Yeah. Gabriel has been telling me this for weeks, and Michael started doing it recently, but I really need to get over this, all of this. Isay said, briefly turning to Rainer at the end, before looking at Irina. From what I know, I'm sure everyone feels terrible and really regrets what they did. Irina said softly. I know, but just because they feel bad about what they did doesn't change the fact that they did it. That's the part I'm having trouble getting through this stage. Returning to that room shook me deeply that time. On the other hand, I probably returned them 10 times over when I returned. Issei said quietly, pausing for a moment. It's just something broke inside me that day. Like when the light on a machine goes off, but it continues working. However, if it weren't for Gabriel, I probably wouldn't be working at all right now. He would be broken beyond repair and probably dead. Issei confesses. Irina and Zenovia looked down, ashamed of the role they had played in making Issei lost. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how things go tomorrow. Isay said optimistically, with the two reincarnated angels perking up at this. Yes, maybe everything will work out. Irina said happily. Although, it might cause a bit of a problem. Zenovia said, thinking about his recent change. If they can't accept it, then it's just proof that they're not really your friends. Isay said sternly. What are these two then? Rainer asked sarcastically. After that, Irina and Zenovia went down to rest, and Isay also went to bed in anticipation for tomorrow. Monday brought a new change to the week. It might have had something to do with Irina, Zenovia and Isay preparing to revisit Haidu house and possibly stay there permanently once again, but that remained to be seen. As the trio headed to school, there was someone at the gates waiting anxiously for them. Good morning, Isay. Good morning, Irina. Good morning, Zenovia. Murayama said happily. Good morning, Murayama, you look very energetic today. Isay commented. Now I have so much energy and the sun shines so brightly. Murayama said happily. Now that you mention it, I feel invigorated too, more than I did before. Zenovia commented thoughtfully. I think it's because you got a little more from me when I turned them into angels, giving you an extra boost. Isay said quietly, making sure no one heard. Well, should we go to class now? Happily asked Murayama, to which the trio nodded as the group of four left. Upon entering the classroom, Isay separated from the three, quickly walked to his desk and sat down happily. Isay. Where were you yesterday, man? We were both calling you. Motohama asked curiously. Ah, I was out of the house all day, I had to go help an old friend in another city. Isay said tiredly. What happened? Isay asked curiously. Not here, mate, we'll tell you outside at lunch. Mitsuda said, with a smile. You don't think they were lucky too, do you? Rainer asked in shock. I think I'd probably forgive you before that happens. Isay thought dryly. Line break. By lunchtime, the trio had arrived at their usual spot. Mitsuda and Motohama looked very excited and seemed ready to burst. Well, then, what's the good news? Isay asked curiously. You first, Motohama. Mitsuda said. Motohama nodded before raising his glasses a little. I kissed Kiryu on the lips and I even got to second base. Motohama said proudly. Good for you. I figured you'd have a good chance with Kiryu, since she's probably just as perverted as you. Isay said, praising Motohama. Yes, but wait until you hear the news from Mitsuda. Motohama said, with a smile. Isay waited patiently while Mitsuda let the suspense build before speaking. Addis and I are dating now. Mitsuda proudly revealed. Wow, even after eating like an animal in heat at that burger place? Isay questioned in shock. Yeah, wait, what are you talking about? Mitsuda asked, initially speaking proudly, before becoming confused. You guys do remember that I said I was going to go on the date to see you guys ruin things, right? I mean, you guys did a lot better than I expected, but you ate like a pig, Mitsuda, and were close to tears during the Motohama movie. Isay said jokingly. Fuck you, Isay. At least we've made real progress. The perverted duo shouted. You did it, and I am equally surprised and proud of you too. For two idiots, you managed a semi-decent date. Issei said, nodding. Well, how did it go? You weren't even on a real date. You were a label. Murayama asked. Well, let's say better than both of them together and leave it at that. Isay said calmly. Hey. We'll tell you how stupid it was for us. Mitsuda shouted accusingly. But Murayama just said that he wasn't even on a real date, so I don't need to say anything. Issei smiled. I bet you struck out and you're putting up a front. Murayama accused. Believe what you want. Issei said happily, waving his hand at the duo. You don't think he has another one, do you? Murayama whispered to Mitsuda. No way. It wasn't even a real date. I doubt Murayama would even like it. Whispered again Mitsuda. Issei was barely containing his laughter at this point. She doesn't even like me, oh man, I'm not going to be able to hold him. Issei thought, barely suppressing her laughter. As the duo continued their furious whispered argument, a loud scream brought them out of there. You did what with Haidu? She shouted, a voice which could only belong to Caddis. The perverted duo looked at Issei with stunned expressions. What? Don't look at me like that, I clearly struck out and this was all a facade. Issei said with some difficulty before letting out all his laughter and rolling on the grass. Once Issei recovered, he noticed the two of them looking at him in amazement. Please teach us, master. Mitsuda and Murayama shouted desperately. You already know what you need to know. You're in, just don't screw things up. Issei said indifferently. I doubt these two can help that, but then again, I didn't get to see those two go on dates either, so maybe they'll surprise us. Rainer said. We? When do we become one? Issei thought, confused. Well, I'm part of your mind. Rainer pointed out as if he were the most obvious thing in the world. Issei hummed at the thought but didn't respond after that, amused by teasing his two perverted friends. Line break. At the end of the day, Isay, Irina and Zenovia returned to their residence after Murayama said goodbye to them when their paths separated. See you downstairs in 10 minutes. There's no telling how long we'll be there, so bring enough clothes to last a week. Isay said tiredly, receiving 2 nods from her fellow angels. As Isay headed to his room, he wasn't surprised to see Rainer in his living room, waiting for him, her arms crossed under her breasts. So, you're really thinking about doing that? Rainer questioned, with an eyebrow raised. Yeah, I don't like this the same as you do, but it needs to be done, I guess. Isay said tiredly, before heading to his room, with Rainer following him. You know, you don't have to do this. You don't owe Azazel anything. He enjoys studying and helping train sacred gear users. It's his hobby. He would have helped you anyway. Rainer pointed out. I know, but I'm not doing this for him anyway. It's for Gabriel and for me too. Isay muttered quietly, zipping up his red duffel bag, which contained his clothes. Rainer didn't say anything after that, which Isay appreciated. Going down the stairs, she noticed that the other two weren't there yet and waited. A few minutes later, they came down and nodded to Isay, before making the trip back to the Haidu house. Reaching the door, Isay opened it and allowed his 2 companions to enter, before closing it behind them. As the trio approached the door, Isay grew nervous and prepared himself for what was soon to come. Raising his hand, he knocked on the door politely. To her surprise, none of the house's usual residents opened the door, but Azazel did. Ah good, you're here, just in time. Azazel said happily, ushering the 3 in. In time for what? Isay asked confused, trying to distract himself from the familiar devils to the left of him. For the guest of honor to arrive, of course. Azazel said, before a portal would appear in the middle of nowhere and open in the room, causing a gothic loli to come out. Office, the dragon god of infinity. Azazel said, surprising everyone. You got to be kidding. Right, Azazel. This is a joke, right? Isay asked. No. Azazel said simply, causing Isay to just put his hand on his face. A piece of advice for the future, Azazel: next time you want to bring in one of the 10 strongest existences in the world, one who is destined to be the leader of the strongest terrorist organization in the world. I want at least 3 days of warning. Isay said dryly. How are you okay with this? Zenovia asked curiously. Azazel does stupid things. Remember when we trained before the 3 factions meeting? It's really not his way to do things normally. For him to do something like this, especially considering the situation right now, this must be really important. Isay said, giving the fallen angel an exasperated look. But this, it is very possible that the entire aspect of the Chaos Brigade will change. Azazel confirmed. Okay, I'll put up with this for now. However, what I meant was what I said before, I don't want to be played with. This is the last time she let you dictate things like this. Isay said firmly, before feeling a certain sensation against his back, which involuntarily made him relax. Naya? Aren't you excited to see me again? Kuroka asked, appearing from a magic circle behind Issei and covering herself along Issei's back. So, is that why you haven't shown up in the last few days? Issei asked, looking over his shoulder, ignoring the shocked looks from the gathered devils. Maybe, but I also brought Lefei with me, Naya. Kuroka said jokingly, before a slightly shy mage came out from behind Kuroka. Hello again Mr. Red Dragon. Lefei said shyly. Hello Lefei, has Kuroka been giving you trouble like always? Issei joked, making Kuroka pout. What does that mean, Naya? Kuroka asked. Lazy ass, like a real cat. Issei said with a deadpan. That's because I save my energy for our time. Kuroka purred, causing Issei to blush slightly. Kuroka then separated from Issei and approached Kaneko, who became very defensive. Hey Shirin, I hope you've been training hard. Kuroka said happily, making Kaneko frown slightly. While we're dealing with this mess, I have something for you, Riaz. Issei said calmly, drawing everyone's gaze. Me? Riaz asked surprised. Yes, here. Issei said, taking something out of his pocket and throwing it at Riaz. Riaz caught it and looked at it in surprise. How did you? Riaz stuttered in surprise. I am the Red Dragon Emperor, there are not many things I can't do. Issei said flatly. Well, except finding people who won't betray you, you've had very bad luck with that so far. Rainer commented. I want to talk with you. Afa said, instantly catching everyone's attention. Is that why we needed to come here? Issei asked Azazel. Yes, Office is interested in you and Vali, who have been showing interesting growth. However, to bring someone like Office here, there were certain requirements that had to be met, a safe house being one of them. Azazel responded. I understand. Well, before I begin, I have something to say to the devils. Issei said, making the occult research club look at him. I may have been too hard on all of you when I come back. I meant what I said, but maybe it was too much, maybe not, I still haven't decided yet. However, I am willing to at least talk to all of you from now on, but I don't think that will make us friends. Issei said. Look at them, they're smiling. You have shown weakness, and now you will pay the price for that weakness again. Rainer said cynically. I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say thank you for the opportunity to do things right. Kiba said, as the girls seemed too excited to respond. They only have one more chance. Issei said firmly, receiving a nod from Kiba. Line break. The group retired to the VIP room of the Haidu house. Kendo had made tea for the guests, but Office just looked at Issei. Issei matched Office's gaze, but he couldn't help but feel a little intimidated. Thanks to his skill in Senjutsu, he could sense that Office was truly a bottomless pit of energy. The personification of the infinite suited him well. Greg. Do you want to stop being a heavenly dragon? Your host has had a different sense of growth so far. I think this is very strange. Very different from the previous hosts. Vali is also the same. Strange. Very strange. In the fight against Cao Cao, Drake had different evolutions. A human who became a devil and then an angel. First time this has happened. That's why I want to ask. Drake, what will you become? Afa said. The boosted gear appeared on Issei's arm and through it, Drake spoke. I do not know. I don't know what my host wants to become, but his growth is very interesting. Drake responded. If you want to know what I will become, you should ask me. Issei said, making Office look up at Issei. What do you want to become then, possessor of Drake? Office asked. I want to be loved. Issei said. What is love? Office asked. Love is the feeling of being comfortable with someone. Having people you care about who also care for you. Prefer to be with them instead of being alone. I want to become someone who is loved. Issei said. I don't want love then. I want to be alone. Great Red is annoying. Office said simply. Partner, you won't be able to explain love to someone like Office. Drake said. Then I will show Office what love is. Issei said, surprising everyone. Partner, Office is a mass of infinite energy, born from nothing. Drake said. Alright. I like the challenge. Furthermore, everyone should know love, even if it sometimes brings pain. Issei said, briefly glancing at his former comrades, before turning back to Office. Well, I guess if anyone can do it, it would be you. You're the strangest host I have ever had after all. Drake said. Line break. You know, there's a lot of uncomfortable tension in this room, I'm even starting to feel dizzy. Rainer said. Issei was sitting on the couch, with Office next to him on his right. To the left of him sat Lefei awkwardly, and to the left of him was Kuroka, who was trying to get to Issei. Next to Kuroka was Arena, and next to her was Zenovia. Azazel had left, leaving the two groups alone, with the occult research club, minus Roswis and Ravel, who were busy, but that did not mean that the tension was palpable. You're not the only one. Issei thought, feeling his stomach twist into knots, as he tried to strangle himself. Issei, how have you been? Kiba began nervously, before changing his question mid-sentence. I have been fine. Issei said stiffly. Kiba grimaced slightly at the short response, causing Issei to sigh internally. How have the rest of you been? Issei asked, with a lot of effort. I was fine, I think. Kiba replied. Have you recovered from your battle with Saraerg? Issei asked, doing his best to keep things going. Yes, although it was hard to lose like that. Hyudou admitted. The room fell silent once again, growing more uncomfortable as time passed. Issei, if you don't mind me asking, how did you do this? Riaz asked, holding up the night piece Issei had given her. With the boosted gear, since it responds to my will and can do many things if I concentrate hard enough. Issei replied, not meeting the Redite's eyes. First lie of the day, huh? Although I assume you used the boosted gear to do it, so maybe it's not a complete lie. Rainer commented. Have you been training, Gasper? Issei asked, turning to the nervous vampire, who was currently sitting on his box. Yeah, every night. Kiba has been helping me. Gasper answered timidly. Well. Issei said, nodding. The awkward silence reigned once more, before Issei suddenly stood up. I'll go to the bathroom. Issei said, leaving the room. The silence that permeated the room after that was not only uncomfortable, but also tense and distrustful. Naya, you know, if everyone really wants to fix things with Issei, how about we try to get comfortable with him? This awkward tension won't help any of you, Naya. Kuroka said with a yawn escaping her lips. And why would you want to help us? Riaz asked, her eyes narrowing sharply. Remery, before you start making mental judgments, try to remember that it was your poor judgment that started this whole mess. I'm not complaining, since it worked very well for me and for him too, but you're also making Issei uncomfortable, which is something I'd rather neither of you do. Kuroka said seriously. The Kendo abruptly left the room after this, making the others look at the way she had gone, before Kuroka yawned loudly. Well, at least it looks like someone got the message. Kuroka muttered. What do you mean? Kiba asked. Everyone walks on eggshells, as if one bad word would send him running out of here. Just look at those two, he forgive them and they didn't even do that much. Kuroka said, pointing at Irina and Zenovia, all the while looking at Kiba. Of course everyone heard him, but acting like that isn't going to fix anything. Kuroka finished, who then gave another yawn. Line break. Issei complained as he left the bathroom. Surprised I didn't move the bathroom? I mean, this is your house, but she just comes in and changes it, without even asking your opinion. Rainer said. Issei. Akeno said, as she approached Issei. Oh, this is going to be fun, I can feel it. Rainer said. Akeno. Issei said flatly. Issei, I want your forgiveness. I'll do anything to make it up to you. Akeno said forcefully. No, thanks. Issei said lazily. Akeno couldn't help but widen her eyes in shock. What do you mean? Akeno asked confused. I don't want you to do anything for me. Issei reiterated. But why? I'm offering to do anything for you, anything. What more can I give you to prove myself? Akeno asked, getting a little hysterical. I don't know, I don't care either. Issei said noncommittally. Why? Didn't you always say you liked me? Every time you touched me, didn't you feel something for me? Didn't you always say I had the best breasts? Didn't you say that even though you definitely hated fallen angels, you have never had a dislike for me? Akeno asked. So? Issei asked, making Akeno shiver. Why don't you answer me correctly? Akeno shouted loudly. Sorry, I just don't care too much to bother. Issei said. Akeno seemed heartbroken by this and fell to her knees, tears falling from her eyes. Oh man, you suck. I really thought you were doing the just to spite her, but now you're going to give it a chance, right? Rainer complained. Issei ignored Rainer and walked towards Akeno, kneeling in front of her. Issei gave a soft sigh, before pulling Akeno against his chest, enveloping her in a hug. I always liked you. Issei said, causing Akeno to stop crying and listen to Issei closely. I had feelings for you. Issei continued. I like you, and even though I hate fallen angels, I didn't dislike you because you were one. Issei finished saying. Then why did you ignore me? Why did you just carelessly ignore my feelings? Akeno asked quietly. Then I might start to forgive you. Issei said tiredly, causing Akeno to move a little, so that she could see his face. Issei's expression seems largely neutral, but his eyes seemed tired. The way you feel right now, just for a moment, was how I felt when everyone ignored me. None of you cared about my feelings. None of you cared how I felt. That's why, even though I hate myself for doing it, now that you've felt what I felt, maybe I can start to forgive you and try to get over it all. Issei said, breaking the hug and walking away from Akeno. Do you really mean that? That we can try to fix things between us? Akeno asked. Yeah, if I didn't care about all of you, I wouldn't have cared about all those things you said. She hurt me so much because of how much I cared about you. Issei explained. Issei, I'm sorry. Kendo said sadly. I know. That's why you came and tried to make things right now. That's why I'm also giving you another chance, because I know you really want to make up for what you did. However, the first step to forgiveness is to feel the same pain. The same emotions, like the ones you hurt me with. With the right empathy, now that you felt how I felt, ignored, unwanted, unloved, maybe. We can fix things. Issei said genuinely. Kendo gave him a shy smile at that. Thank you, Issei. Kendo said, to which Issei nodded, before helping her up, standing next to her. Kendo then turned on her heel and left, but not before throwing Issei a smile over her shoulder. Issei exhaled deeply, before turning to a displeased Rainer to the right of her arms crossed under her chest. Weak. Oh my god, the amount of crap I just heard was enough to last me another lifetime. You and I know you felt much worse than she did now. You are too soft and she will use it to get back into your heart and break it into pieces again. After all, I'd know, that's what fallen angels do and we're really good at it, nah, Issei. Rainer said, using the same voice as Yuma when she said Issei's name. Maybe, but we won't know for sure unless you take that risk. Issei thought. You take too many, that's why this happened, remember that. Rainer said. That's it guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. See you in the next part.